So I'm going to try them out along with you watching me, and let's hope that they perform the same way. I am going to actually quilt on my quilt, so if it messes it up and you hear me swear, forgive me now. Okay, just say, Karen, I feel your pain. Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're well and having a beautiful day wherever you are in this world, and I hope that everything is going fantastic for you in your life. And if it's not, as I always say, you know, those days come and go and everything changes. I always remember that someone said to me at one time, seasons change, they don't stay the same, isn't it? So everything shall move one day. Anyway, before we move on to this video, welcome. If you're here for the first time, don't forget to like and subscribe, hit that notification bell if you think that what you've seen has given you some interest. And of course, I would implore you to actually go and find out more about my channel. Okay, right, so let's move on to today's tutorial. So what I'm going to do is show you how these actually work. Now, I know you know how these work, but these are what I'm referring to are some quilting feet. Now, I got these quilting feet from Temu on my sponsored video, which I will link for you so you can have a look in one of the info cards that comes up and goes screen, of course, just screen. Okay, so I will link that for you so you can have a look of that Temu sponsored video. Now, one of my subscribers, Cherie, asked me 3 days ago if I had used the quilting feet as yet, and the answer was no, I haven't used them yet. However, I did say to her that I have a quilt to quilt, which I'm actually recording for you guys, and so I'm going to try them out. So today is that day, so I'm going to literally try these two out, and of course this one here, so you get 3 in a pack, and I will put it up for you as well so you can see it on the screen. And I think they cost about $6, $5, I can't remember. You look at so many things, but they were not expensive at all. So you get 3 in a pack, which is fantastic. So I'm going to check them out and see if they are actually worth the coin or the claim that they are actually quilted feet, and if they actually fit onto my machine. So I haven't pre-recorded this in the sense that I haven't planned it. It is literally what you're going to see is the full honest truth. Now, ideally, I wouldn't put anything on my sewing machine, my beautiful Quilter's Choice sewing machine, to destroy it. And if it does, I almost swore, but nevertheless, I almost swore. I would be very upset. Very upset, but I don't think they will. I think they are very sturdy and strong and very much like the ones that I've actually been using. Now, I have quite a few, and these have certainly added to the collection. So I'm going to try them out along with you watching me, and let's hope that they perform the same way. I am going to actually quilt on my quilt, so if it messes it up and you hear me swear, forgive me now. Okay, just say, Karen, I feel your pain. You know. All right. So let's go check these out and see if they're actually worth what they say they are. I don't want to say wish me luck, but let's go. Alright guys, so you just saw me took off my feet here, so I'm just going to bring it into the shot so you can see it. Okay, so this is my one. You can tell because there's lots of fluff in it there. You can actually see it. All right, And just bring it closer slowly so the camera picks up. So there's all that fluff on it there. All right, and this is the Temu one. So let's definitely compare them side by side so you can see what they actually look like. I'm trying to find the perfect position. Probably if I just put them down, it would be the easiest way. So they look quite similar to me. I'm just going to move it out because it's not in the shot. I don't want to mess about with too much with it. All right, so this is the old one in terms of my one. This one here, you can see all the fluff. And this is the Temu one, and they are literally the same thing. Okay, so they both got that. This is my one yet again. They both got that line in the middle there that you can see, those two red marks. Okay, so that's on there, and that one there as well has it. Okay, so I'm going to put mine away because I want to get them confused. So I put mine away, and I'm going to fit this on and see if it actually fits on quite easily. Now, normally when you are fitting your free motion feet, now they're sometimes called a darning foot, and they're called a quilting toe. There's several names for them, but nevertheless, they all do the same similar function, i.e. they are best suited for quilting. All right, and so they have a spring so that it allows it to actually hops while it's actually bouncing on the quilt top. Okay, so I'm gonna hook it on. So they all should hook on relatively the same. They got that little hook there to go in between the screw, and I'm just gonna make that screw a little bit bigger. Okay, and usually you would find that it must sit over where the needle adjustment is. So this area here is where you will tighten, put your needle in, and you will tighten it so it stays. So it should always sits there, and I'm just going to tighten it. So excuse my hands in the screen until I get this on properly. And I always hate doing this because for me, I have big hands and I always fuss doing it. Let's try doing it this way and see if it works first. Yes, use my hand first, my fingers in this case, and then I'll tighten it. Did I get it? I don't think I tightened it enough because I felt it move a little bit. There we go. There we go. All right. All right, that seems to be nice and tight in there. I'll just give it a double check just to make sure that it is on there nicely. Yeah, can't go any further. Now, the first thing that I actually do is to double check that the needle goes directly through the hole, okay? And it's beautiful and shiny in comparison to the old one. The old one is quite dusty, and it's beautiful and shiny. So this is my one in my hand, and that's a Temu's one, exact same thing. So I'm just gonna turn the wheel just to ensure that it goes through, and just double check, and yes, it does goes through nice and easy. Okay, a bit of fluff coming down there, and move that out of the way. You can tell I need to give my machine a little bit of a dusting. Right, okay, and it's also picked up the thread below. Beautiful, it's done that for me already. Right, okay, so one of the objectives of using this particular one, this plastic one with the markings, is because if you're wanting to actually quilt sort of averagely without using your rulers, your quilting rulers that is, and I'm talking about the quilting rulers you put on your quilt to do designs. I'm not talking about your ordinary 60-degree line rulers, okay, what you do for marking or piecing. So I'm talking about actual quilting rulers. Those strips, those two red strips there is about 1/4 inch, and it helps you just to guide you to keep straight. Okay, so I'd use that for example, if I'm doing feathers, or if I'm doing serpentine lines, just to give an average appearance of the width, and so it just keeps me on track. So that's what I use this for. Okay, so this is ideal. Next thing I'm going to do is put it down and see if it sits nicely, just to double check. Now it's hovering a little bit. That could be, for me, But again, I like that. Okay, when I say from me, it could be that I actually screwed it on a little bit too high on the shank, but that's good, because the reason why I'm saying it's good that it's hovering a little bit underneath, and I'm going to show you what I mean. Look, I can move the thread quite easily underneath there. The fact that it's hovering, it gives me an indication that it will sit nice and snug on the quilt, and it's not literally pressing down on it, so that the quilt then is restrictive, so there's movement there, there's room for movement there. All right, so my bottom thread is up, and I'm just going to move these aside. Okay, this is the other two quilting feet from Temu. I'll put this aside for now. Now I'm going to bring the quilt onto it, and we're just going to do a little bit of quilting and see how it actually works. Now, normally before I start to quilt, what I will do is double check that I have my stitch length and my stitch width you know, running congruent to each other, i.e. they're working in harmony with the sewing machine. This is a manual sewing machine, this Quilter's Choice, and so therefore I have to regulate just to ensure that I don't get any, you know, sort of unhappy quilting at the back of my quilt. And you know what I mean by that. You get all those knots, you get all those, you know, teardrop eye things, you know, you get all those, everything that can go wrong behind the quilt. When you think of the front of it, it's fine. It isn't. All right, so but I wouldn't do that today, because I know this is already set. I don't necessarily interfere with this Quilter's Choice since I got it the first day, and I've used it and I found the sweet spot for quilting. I have not changed it. Now if you're on a computerized sewing machine, obviously it will do that for you. So I'm going to bring the quilt in, and as I said to you, this is the actual quilt that I'm going to quilt. I'm going to lift it up and go right underneath, and I'm going to quilt somewhere hopefully where you can actually see what I am doing quite easily. Now the other thing is that there are some benefits of using this. As I said, one of them is the fact that you have your lines in between. You don't necessarily, if you're sitting down, I feel, see where you're going if you're at the same level of this, but because I stand, I can see quite clearly, all right, where I'm actually going with the quilting. So I'm going to get my gloves on. I can't see the other one. It's always happening. Oh, there it is. Oh, I'm starting to whinge already, and it's right in front of me. Okay, so get the gloves on, and I'm just going to do some wishbones or something like that and see how it goes. Or should I start? I'll start from the other end. So I'm just moving the quilt along. Should I start from the other end? One thing I love about this Quilter's Choice is that the throat space is so damn big, and I know you guys have heard me say that before. That's why I love it. Okay, so I'm going to, now I don't necessarily lift up my my bobbin thread. It's already lifted, but because I've put a quilt on, it's sitting underneath the quilt. So I'm just going to start quilting. Now this is this is not my usual, so I'm just going to take it slow, and I always tend to do that. So I would definitely put the needle into the quilt top just to ensure that it sits in there nicely. Okay, now I'm just going to start a little bit slowly just to ensure that it is working sufficiently. I don't want to break the needle, and I don't want to damage my machine. So because this quilting feet is new, in the sense that it comes from Temu, and it's a bit silly that we think that, because ideally Temu themselves has not made this. You know, they're not a manufacturing company. They're a company that buys in goods and sells them cheaply. All right, but I'm going to check it out because I was asked to do so. All right, here we go. That seems fine, so I'm just going to move it backward and just cut my thread and pull that out of the way. So far so good. Now you may not be able to see the quilting, but hopefully you can pick it up. Okay, so I can feel that my bobbin has caught somewhere, so I'm just going to stop and check. All right, so let's try again. All right, so let's try this again. I'm just going to pull away my thread since it's at the back, because I don't want it to get caught again. So good. So far, so good. And so what I'm using again is those two lines just to keep the curve here consistent. Yeah, again, it doesn't have to be, you know, you don't have to measure it, but because I have that guideline there, it's just an average measure for myself. That's all. All right, so this one works fine. Let's try out the other two. So I'm not going to change it on camera. I'm just going to come back with the other one already in, otherwise it's end up being a very long video. All right, so the next one we're going to go with now is the closed toe. But this closed toe is different. It's got a nice little open area there. As much as it's closed all the way around, it's got a little hole there, which is ideal. And again, I will tell you what I think that's for, but let's change this one over and then have a go at it. All right, so this one is going on just as normal as the other one. And I'm just tightening. I know I said I wouldn't show you this, but I changed my mind because I think it's important that you see all of this really. So it fits on there just as the other one, nice and easy. And I'm just tightening now as I am here, just to ensure it's on there properly. Okay, now the advantage of having the closed toe is that it's nice and big, it's wide, it flattens, it does the same performance as this one. The only difference is you haven't got that 1/4 inch marking there. However, you do have just a little guide there, sort of a little open area, and I do feel that that's an area where you can focus on if you want to do straight lines. So if you want to do stitch in the ditch and you want to stitch straight on the ditch, you can angle, and when I say angle, I mean your eyes visually focus on that area there on the line. So for example, I have this seam line there, so let's try it out as I'm explaining. Right, so there it is on that small seam line there, and so it is lined up. Let me just get this here. It is lined up there, so you can go straight on that ditch in order for you to sew. So I think that's one of, I have not seen that before on any of the closed toe quilting feet. All right, this is the first time I've seen that one, but I do like that there where you can actually use that as a guide to follow a line, or even if you wanted to draw your patterns on for your quilting, like I used to sometimes if I want to do feathers and my mind, and I haven't done it for a while and I've slightly forgotten I want to do a star, I can draw it on there with my quilting pens, my heat erasable pens, and I can follow that line using that. All right, so let's try it out here and see how we get on. Perfect, absolutely perfect. it fits on there nicely. So I am going to do, for quilting on my my quilt here, I'm going to do something meanders, swirls. I'm going to mix it up. All right, so let's try a little bit of meander and see what happens. Beautiful. Moves very nicely. Let's do a little bit of flower. Excellent. No problems at all. Let me put my gloves on because my hand is slipping. Right, so no issues at all. Again, loving this, definitely. Let's just come back to that meander again. I know I'm using a light thread, but that's what I wanted for the quilt. So this one also operates nicely. Let's try a little swirl. What I'm loving is the beautiful big open area in comparison to this one here. So you see that small area here, and again, you can use them for what you think. So as I said, these are perfect for doing the the serpentine lines and the feathers. You want to get that, you know, as close as measurement. This, I think, is ideal if you're doing swirls, so you can make nice big ones. If you want to do stitch in the ditch, perfect. So again, this one works really beautifully. Once I am done with the 3 examples, I will turn the quilt over and then we will have a look and see if we see any mishaps, which I don't think, because my machine tells me the movement underneath doesn't sound, because I listen to the mechanics of the machine and I know when it's working fine, and I know if something is slightly off. You know, I know what it needs cleaning as well, because as I said to you before in one of my videos, you know, you got to let your quilts talk to you and tell you what sort of patterns, quilting patterns it deserves. Same with the machine. You got to listen to the mechanics of it. Fall in love with your machine. Get to understand it better. And the more you do so, the more you know exactly how it works and when something is not right. So let's change this one over, and we're going to go over to the open toe. So for this one, I definitely would not show you how I put it on because it's the same one. Okay, what I would say the advantage of using this, as I said, is for that nice stitch in the ditch. You can actually see where you're going. It's nice and big as well. It's a beautiful big hole in comparison to the others. I want to see if I have any more just right underneath here with me in my machine. Oh yes, look at that. Love that. Love it when the plan works out. Well, it didn't, wasn't a plan. Look at the difference with this open toe here. It's much bigger, isn't it, in the sense that it's more of a sort of a C rectangular shape. And one of the reasons I don't like this open toe here is because when I use it, if you're at the end, and let me just drag the quilt up, let's say you're at the end of the quilt here, and if you slightly come off and you go onto the batting, this is going to hook underneath. Let me just, I'm going to have to take the needle up and just move back. Right, so as I was saying, when I don't necessarily use this one anymore, and it's because of this particular reason. If I'm quilting and I come at the end here where the quilt stops and the batting, you can see, and I move across too quickly without checking that I'm literally not at the end, I will hook in. I will hook in to the edge of the quilt top like so, and then obviously I have to stop and get it out and untangle it, because obviously when you're quilting you're moving fast, aren't you? So there's going to be a couple of stitches in there that would really kind of hook it back like so, bring it back. So I don't use this one for that reason, okay? Because that toe there is so open and wide, you will have that problem. So I don't use that, okay? What I like this one about though is that if I have joint seams, so for example where I have seams come together, what I like about this one is literally hops around those seam quite nicely. And I would, if I know I'm using I'll have a quilt that has lots of stars on it, I would use this one for that purpose, because it hops around those joints quite easily, or I should say where all those seams come together. And as I said, each, as much as they all are darning foot, quilting toe feet, whatever you call them, the same operation, they have their personal uses for your preference. Okay, so I'm going to change this one over, and what I'm going to do is just continue with the other one. All right, now because I have moved the quilt, I can easily just move it up and down. I can see where my thread stops, and I love that as well, that you can move it out and pull up your thread if need be. So if I cut that there, let me show you, and I want to go back in and get the bobbin thread, I pull it up, pull up my bobbin thread, and I can move it out the way. If I move it out the way, there's my bobbin thread. Okay, so I love that because it's nice and big. You got that area to do that. All right, so I'm going to change this one over and come back with the open toe feet. All right, guys, so I've now put back on the open toe foot, and before I start quilting with this one, just wanted to tell you about this one, you know, what the use is. Now, the fact that it's open, again, you can actually see where you go in, and again, I love this one because it's nice and big space in between there. Okay, in comparison to this one where it's kind of a rectangular shape. I love that. Okay, now as I said, I do believe that even using this one here will also give me that issue of if I'm at the end here, I may possibly hook it. May possibly, I don't know for sure, but I may possibly hook it. All right, and I don't think that's down to the feet. That could be user error and the fact that I bring it too close to the edge. Okay, but from quilting with this one on a regular basis, sometimes if I am quilting, I will go close to the edge so that I get the edges down, which really you don't have to, because that's going to be covered by a binding anyway. But sometimes if you're doing a swirl and you curve, you may come over the edge slightly. And if I am quilting, I don't necessarily try to quilt within that area there. And what I mean by that, if I am making a circle, I will go off onto the batting, and because I do that, on my way back around, I may possibly get hooked there. I hope you understand what I'm saying to you. All right, okay, so let's try this one out. So that's the advantage of using this open toe. You can see where the needle is ideally, and you can actually see where you're going. I would definitely say it's probably one you can actually, I just pulled up the thread, you can actually use again for stitching the ditch. And yeah, all right, so what I'm going to do is remove that bobbin thread from there, and I'm going to pick it up where I left off here at this particular point here. So I pick it back up from that point. And again, what I tend to do, I don't always kind of force myself, you know, I would move it out the way so I can get it quite easily. You know, it's many what sort of people with long arms will do. They'll just move it out the way and put it back in place. So that's why I've sort of picked up the habit from, to be honest. Right, so I'm going to just swipe that underneath and put it at the back. You don't have to. Sometimes what I tend to do is a bit of a double stitch, lift it up, move it out the way, and just cut. I just drop the scissors and just cut that bobbin thread and the top thread together. All right, and just go back where I was. Right there. Okay, so we're going to continue again with the stitching and see what actually happens with this one. Okay, and as I would say, what I do like, and I can see already, I do like the quilt toe or the quilt feet to actually sit nice and flat on the quilt, and this does that for me. So I am happy with that already. I can see that pleases me. I don't like when I think it's hovering or there's a little bit of a space. Right, this one I've noticed is skipping, and I don't think that's the actual feet. That's my needle, which is probably a little bit dull. So I'm going to move it a little bit slowly so it catches up to it. So that's quilting fine. So meander yet again. That looks fine. I love it when it works out. Now, if you look carefully there, and because I'm getting slip stitches because my needle is not sharp anymore, in reality this needle does need changing. I probably haven't changed it. This is probably the 4th or 5th quilt it's actually quilting, so it is dull. Okay, so but what I wanted to show you, hopefully I can go in a little bit closer and show you. Let's wait till the camera actually catches up to itself. Is it going to? Is it going to? Come on, baby, you can do it. Come on, baby. Let's give her a hand. There she goes. Is she ready? No. All right, so the thread has gone, where it has slipped there. Can you see it? The actual open toe has actually gone under, and these are one of the things that tends to happen when you got an open toe. So for me, that's why I don't like using them, because they're a little bit of a disadvantage when you've got little issues with your needle, such as it needs changing, or at the edge of the quilt, as I explained before. So, you know, just wanted to point that out to you. Yes, it allows you to see, but it also gives you those sort of hooking problems, and I see that as a disadvantage. Whereas if it was a flat, that wouldn't happen. It would just glide over it. So in answer to the question, does the quilting feet work on the sewing machine? Yes. No issues at all. They actually quilted quite easily. There is no issues. But let me continue with this one a little bit longer. Again, so definitely need to change my needle because I've got another slip stitch. All right, but it does quilt quite easily, and no issues at all with the actual feet. So let's turn over, let's pull this out and look at the actual quilts themselves. Well, I should say the stitching, because that's really what we want to see. Let me just make sure the back is undone. Right, so we'll start off at the beginning. So these stitches here, which is the wishbones, was this one. Okay, these stitches, where is it? Don't tell me, guys, listen, I misplace everything so easily. Where is the other feet? It's probably on the quilt somewhere, I guarantee you. All right, what I'm going to do is to come up from the small area here where I am. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, Karen, honestly, Karen, honestly, what did I do? What did I do with it? Oh, there, I did say it wasn't a quilt, didn't I? All right, here we go. So let's put it back, and let's do this like a professional, she says. Okay, so this here was this one. So the wishbones was this particular feet that actually quilted, which looks really beautiful. I am happy with that. The closed toe was these ones here, and hopefully you can make it out. So closed toe, did I lose it yet again? Was that one. And the other one, which is on there now, is these little ones there, which is fine with the slip stitch. So obviously I am not going to unpick, but I will cut the slip stitched area and actually requilt that over again. But again, please don't think that is the quilting feet, because it isn't. That is my needle that needs changing. The needle is dull, and as I said, I haven't changed it in probably the 5th quilt. All right, which my brain did kind of tell me before I started, but you know, laziness takes over. So anyway, but in closing, I would say, guys, that I think that everything is fine with these quilting feet. There are no issues for me, and they are beautiful. They fit onto my machine nicely, and yeah, they are worth the coin for however much it is. I think it's $6 or $7 for 3. Absolutely beautiful. It's a very good bargain, and yeah, I think it's absolutely brilliant. So now I have 3 more. I think I would put this one on actually and quilt with that one, because I do like that little area there where you can actually, if you want to stitch on in the ditch. Love that. Okay, all right guys, so what I would say is that these feet, yeah, definitely up my stream. They are fine, they're good, no issues with them at all. So Sherry Lee, I hope you got your answer, and for everybody else who was wondering whether the feet actually work, yay, they do. And yeah, so I mean, you can't go wrong with Temu, can you? They are good bargains. And I know a few people, I shouldn't say a lot, a few of you have written to me and say, oh, it's cheap labor or exploited labor. Let's be frank about this. You know, I don't think that Temu is the only brand that does that. There's other brands that sell other cheaper products. And as I said to somebody this morning, you have Shein, you have Amazon. They don't have people making. They buy them in huge bulks and sell it cheaply, and that's the difference with why you would pay more at your local quilt store and less at Temu, because the local quilt store, they don't have got the finances to buy huge amounts that Temu with. And the more you buy as when it comes to business, the less you spend, okay, because you're buying so much more in bulk, but yet you could sell it at affordable price where you will still make a profit. So I don't believe for a second that people are being exploited in any way. This is just business, you know. But even in saying that, I will still say, because I still go to my local quilt store. I was only there yesterday buying fabric, you know. So I will still go there because I still will not get what I want in its entirety at Temu. Temu still would not offer me what I want. Yes, there are items that I can make use of at Temu, but when it comes to variety and feeling and texture of that particular fabric that you're seeing right in front of your eyes and you're able to touch, there's a difference, isn't there? So I think you just got to weigh up what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And there is nothing to say that you cannot shop from both areas. You know, it's a win-win, and you got to tally up what works best in your interest and for your finances. So that's my sort of own personal opinion on using Temu as well as my local quilt store, because I enjoy going to my local quilt store on a Saturday. I mean, if you give me a chance, I'll probably be in there every single day, to be honest. If I could, I would, but I know I can't do that, you know, because I'll go spend too much money on fabric and stand there and touch them and look and say, oh, that's so pretty and that's so pretty. And you've seen my local quilt store, how huge it is and how beautiful it is. See how much passion I'm saying that with. So, you know, you just got to weigh up what works for you. So it's okay if you think that you don't want to shop at Temu. That's fine. That's your personal opinion. But at the end of the day, if somebody's budget falls into that, perfect. If your budget falls into shopping at your local quilt store or other quilt store, that's fine. We all have different budgets that we shop within. But the most important thing is that we all getting to do what we love, which is quilting. That's how I see it. All right, guys. So with that being said, this is all I have for you today. I will, however, bring this quilt to you completed with the whole tutorial so that you can see what it looks like. So if you enjoyed this video, thank you so much for staying with me to the end. And love you guys so much. You bring me joy when I come in here and talk to you. You really, really do. So thanks for subscribing for those of you who are new, and for those of you who are always here with me. I love you. See you next week. Bye for now, and happy quilting.